I'm Mr. B. This is chapter 3. It's a practice test video I made for you to learn, for you to study. You've got math, you've got to know.
All right. It's me, Mr. Barbera. Chapter 3. Let's do this. So standard 1 says rewrite the following expressions as addition expressions, and then we're going to simplify them over here and put our answer. So we learned in class that subtracting can be thought of as adding the opposite. So I'm going to keep my first number the same, 5. I'm going to change the subtraction to addition. And I was originally subtracting -9, so now I'm going to add +9. And in this case, it's a lot easier to see then that my answer is 14. 1 minus 12, I can think of that as 1 plus. Now what I was subtracting here originally was I was taking away 12 positives. So I could think of this as adding 12 negatives. Not sure which one you like better. It's -11. I actually like the subtraction better on this one, but I could see it here too, because 1 positive would cancel out with 1 negative, and I'd have 11 negatives left. 16 minus 5, it's going to become 16 plus -5. And that's going to give me a +11 when I'm done. And then the last one here, 8 minus 3 becomes 8 plus -3. And then subtracting -6 becomes adding +6. And then to simplify, I would do this in pieces. So 8 plus -3 is 5, plus 6 is 11. That was not on purpose, so we ended up with so many 11s there. But that's pretty fun. All right, on to standard 2. Standard 2. This one we're just simplifying. So there's a lot of ways to think about these. 25 minus 75. I might choose to think of this one as 25 plus -75. So when they cancel out, the 25 positives are going to cancel out with 25 of the negatives, and I'm going to be left with negatives here. So you can actually think of it as 75 minus 25. So it'd be 50 left over, but they'd be negative tiles because this was the bigger number was the negative one. So it's -50. Make sure you put it in your answer key on your actual test too. Letter B. Again, this is one where I actually think changing it really helps, because this becomes 70 plus 90, which is a lot easier to see. And that's just 160. Here I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to think of -4 plus +8, because I'm subtracting -8. Plus -3. And plus -14. Now my negatives I can group together. So I have 4 negatives, 3 negatives. That's 7 negatives. Another 14 is 21 negatives. So that would be 8 plus -21. The 8 cancels out with 8 of the negatives, and that leaves me with 13 negatives in the end. And then 40 minus -15 is the same as 40 plus +15, which is not 65. 55. Whoop. All right, standard 3, here we go. All right, we're multiplying or dividing here. So we saw in class that when we do a negative times a negative, we thought of this as taking away 11 groups of -4, and we left behind positive. So negative times a negative is going to be a positive 44. Same thing applies here for B. So negative times a negative, it's going to be a positive 60. And then 7 times 3 times 4. The -7 and the -3 are going to make positive 21. But now I have a positive. This is 21 groups of -4. So my answer is actually going to be negative. And 4 times 21 is 84. So -84. And these there's no answer keys, so just box them when you finish. For D, same rules apply to division. So a negative divided by a positive is going to give me a negative answer. So it's going to be -1. So 80 goes into itself 1 time. Negative divided by a negative is going to be a positive. So it's going to be +2. 16 goes into 32 twice. And then 15 goes into 64 times. And again, it's positive because it's a negative and a negative. So if the signs are the same, meaning if they're both negative or both positive, you get a positive answer. And if they're opposites, meaning one is negative and one's positive, then you're going to get a negative answer. Woo. All right, standard 4. Remember, the commutative property says that if you change the order you are adding in, or multiplying by, they're still equal. So A plus B is the same as B plus A. 2 plus 3 is the same as 3 plus 2. And same for multiplying. The associative property shows you that you can change the grouping symbols. So if I had something like this, that's the same as if I group the A and the B first and then add the C. And the same thing goes for multiplication there. So like A times B times C equals A times B times C. If you really think about it, both these properties kind of say the same thing. They say when I'm multiplying and adding, I can change the order, either by putting grouping symbols around them or just changing the order by moving them around. So we look here, original expression is this. In step 2, the grouping symbols have moved. So now the parentheses moved around the 10 and the 1. So that is the associative property. Then we're just adding here. Sorry, I couldn't get these to line up exactly. Step 4, the order changed inside the parentheses. So if the order changes, that's commutative, which I really am not sure if I'm spelling correctly, but I'm doing my best. Step 5, grouping symbols moved again. So they moved from around the 5 and the 20 to around the 7 and the 5. So that's associative. And then we're adding, and then the last step here, they change the order, so that's commutative. And the final sum, go ahead and give me that too. 11 plus 20 is 31, plus another 12 is 43. All right, last standard. Here we go. Let's divide some fractions. We saw a couple different options here. You are allowed to just keep change, flip if you would like. It's the same as doing a giant one. I'm going to show the supergiant one anyways. So 2 over 9 over 3 over 8. I multiply by 8 over 3. 8 over 3. That becomes 1 in the denominator, and my numerator is 16 over 27. So we can actually leave it as 16 over 27. B, with decimals, it also helps to think of them as fractions here. So negative 9 over 0.36. I want to make them both whole numbers, so I'm going to multiply by 100 on top and bottom. That'll give me 90 over 36. And now I just have to divide 90 over 36. So 90 divided by 36. 36 goes into 90 two times. 2 times 36 is 72. That leaves me with 18 left over. I get to bring down a 0. I'm sorry. I have to put a decimal point to bring down a 0 because I didn't have a 0 there. So now 36 goes into 180. How many times? Is it 5 times? 1, 2. Yeah. I'm almost sure. I'm doubting myself for some reason. 36 times 5. Yeah, okay. So 5 times, and 5 times 36 is exactly 180. So 2.5. Last one over here, C. Got to change them to improper fractions first. So 5 times 2 is 10. Plus 4 is 14 over 5. 7 times 3 is 21. Plus 1 is 22 over 7. It's still negative. By the way, it's a positive divided by a negative, so I know my answer is going to be a negative. And now I'm going to go ahead and just flip and multiply for this one. So 14 over 5 times 7 over 22. 14 times 7 would be 70 plus 28, so 98. And 5 times 22, sorry, this should be negative. This should be negative 2. Should be 100 plus 10, so 110. And you can go ahead and simplify at this point. I would maybe divide them both by 2. So that would be 49 over 55. And you might have noticed you could have pulled out a 2 here in the beginning too and got the same thing. There you go. Practice test. Good luck studying. You guys are doing great.